5S is very important at Bosch Rexroth, as well as many other manufacturers. Is the basis of a really good lean work environment. You got to have 5S before you can really do anything else improvement project wise. Even if we're doing an improvement project, we're gonna first step of the improvement project is to do 5S in the area we're working on, just to set a good baseline. So you guys are probably all, sounds like you're already kind of familiar with this, and maybe even had some training and done some training. I was just mentioning that for sure the students, for them to get the training, and for them even then, maybe we can even make it official and say they get certified in 5S, and that's, to me, is really important that they can put this on their resume. When I'm hiring someone young, especially starting off, if they can show me they've got 5S and they can talk about 5S, that goes a long way in my books as far as looking to potentially hire some young talent. So but yeah, so just 5S again is the basis for any improvement project, and it's basically all about just plain orderliness and cleanliness in the workplace. And the workplace can be a manufacturing area, a machine shop, it could be inventory area, it could be just an office area. We push it all through our organization, even in the office areas, and even we have a workplace standard for everybody to adhere to with their desk and their areas of themselves. To start off with, here's just a little game to kind of get you thinking and also kind of help set the stage. So normally I would print this out and we'd all have a copy of this, and then I'd ask you now to go and circle all the letters that are needed to spell out the phrase orderliness and cleanliness. And I would time you all to see who could get it done the fastest. So you can see there's some letters in there, there's some characters, there's some weird symbols. Things are jumbled up pretty good, so I can tell you normally this probably takes like 3 to 5 minutes for everybody to get through trying to do this, just to find the letters for orderliness and cleanliness. And the point of this here is really to talk about, the sorting. The first step is to sort. So if you were able to sort out all the things, like for this example, sort out all the stuff that's not a letter, it makes things easier, right? Because we're looking for letters. We don't need these other symbols and these other characters. We're looking for letters. So now I'd ask you again to go through and try and circle all the letters needed for orderliness and cleanliness. And what we would find is that there would be an improvement made over the time from the first slide, right? Because we've made it easier. We've sorted out all the things that we don't need. And then the next thing is, if we were to straighten it up now a little bit more, where we at least put all the like letters together in this example, that's a way of straightening the area better. Now we could ask again to go through and circle all the letters for orderliness and cleanliness. And again, we would find that our time to do that would be less than the previous one where we had just sorted. So the first thing is a sort, and then the next part of the 5S is to straighten, and then to shine it, to really clean it up. So now we actually put them in order. So the letters are all in order now. So again, it's just another step that makes it easier now to go through and do this. So again, we would find that our times even now are shorter again. Okay, so help proving the point that there's a benefit to be had. There's an efficiency to gain by doing the at least up to the shine phase. And then now if we were to standardize it, so now there's clear buckets, so there's no chance of these getting mixed up any which way. So again, we would do this exercise now that we've standardized it. We've got a clear space for everything, and we would find again that our times would get a little bit better. And then finally, we've just simplify it. We get to where we're so good that there's no other letters, no other way to do it. It's just simply orderliness and cleanliness. So that's just an exercise we do, kind of, for the people who are still wondering, what the heck 5S is all about. It's just also to prove the point that there's a benefit to be gained for sure by just going through the process and just making everything in good order and keeping that way, keeping it clean. So again, this would be a good exercise to use with your teams to help prove the point. Hopefully to at least gain some awareness that they're dozing off or have other things going on or other thoughts, and to keep them interested in the topic. Seems to work pretty good for when we use it. So now what I just wanted to go through is just each of the S's in a little bit more detail. Any questions about what we looked at here so far? Any comments? Does that make sense so far? You can see the gain.
Yes.
So yeah, so the 5 S's, that comes from a history mainly with lean starting off in Japan. That by keeping things in a certain organization, there was definitely improvements that could be found in quality and throughput and cost and efficiency. And also, what I didn't show here is safety. Safety is also part of this too. Normally, some people even say there's 6 S's, not just 5. The additional S is for safety, but it definitely helps quite a bit, even making the areas a lot safer also. So you could throw that in there too. So yeah, so there's also a history to this going back 1990s even, and again, so it's just mainly the discipline to go through this, and then also the discipline to stick with it is the other key element that we'll talk about, especially when you come to the sustain part of the 5 S's. And we'll talk a lot too about there's different approaches to take to implement a 5S program, and we can talk about that in the end as far as how you guys might want to handle that. But it starts with training and then just constant awareness, and to the point where it's really just it's a habit, becomes a habit, and it's just the clear expectation that everybody has. But anyways, yeah, there's a sort, straighten, shine, standardize, and sustain. And you can hear even some people interested could see the Japanese words for each one of those. So they had S's, so we made sure we had S's in English. Maybe the translation isn't exactly the same, but it works. Okay. So yeah, so the first thing is just getting rid of everything that you don't need of. Okay, that's the sort, and to me that's the most important phase already, is to sort. The more you sort, the less the other things you got to do. And you can always, the thing is to do it once, but you got to kind of stay after it too, because after you sort the first time, things can definitely creep back in. So that's where, if you do the other ones, then that helps with that also. But then straighten is just making sure that you know what you need. It's clearly identified what you need. There's a place for it, so you have it or you don't. And then you also can easily see if there's other things creeping in that weren't there. And then shining is just, again, keeping it clean. One thing is to keep it clean, and mostly everybody focuses on the cleaning aspects of this. Clean area also it makes it easier to see if something is changed or something else has been added into the area. And then this is an important piece too from a safety standpoint is the cleanliness. But so mostly everybody's just talking about a cleaning schedule and making sure that in the cleaning schedule there's also just putting stuff away where it needs to go. And then standardize is then making sure that there's a methodology behind the madness. So you can go through go and do this once, well, I shouldn't say easily, but you can go through and do this once. But if you don't have a standard in place now to make sure you stay after it and make sure it stays in place, then it easily falls right back to what you had before. So making sure there's standards defined. The standard can be as simple as a sign, or a label, or even a color code, or it could be a nice written out procedure. I try and like to keep things pretty simple as far as the standard goes. People might read the procedure one time, but if there's not then simple visuals in place or poke yokes in place, things that keep it where it's supposed to be, it'll fall apart again. So, and then that really leads it to then the sustain, is making sure then There's the discipline, and sometimes with the discipline, that requires, to do audits or follow-ups or check sheets, to do an inspection. But you can also, with sustain, also include things like contests or, targets and goals that everybody wants to try and achieve, and maybe with some incentive or reward program even can be included. So anyways, just going through then each one a little bit more detail. I kind of talked about some of these things, and I'll keep stressing, to me, the sort is the most important. If I do a good job sorting, then I have less of the other S's that I have to really do and take care of, right? But as human, especially, I'm the worst probably too at it. So when I say that is, it's hard for me to give up stuff. I feel someday I'm going to need this item and I just can't give it up. And I think probably in a nonprofit organization where you don't have money to go just buy everything you want, so you want to keep stuff, especially, I call it farm engineering. When I grew up on the farm, I mean, we hung on to everything because you never know when you're going to break down out in the middle of the field, out in the middle of Wisconsin, with no other means but what you have in the shed. And so if we would make stuff out of nothing most of the time. So it's hard, especially with just my nature too, is to give stuff up. But you really need to push the organization to really say if you need it. And so, I mean, the three questions that you need to ask is, what is it? What's the value? What chances might we ever need this or use this? Okay, and sometimes it's very obvious. Sometimes you might have to, maybe you just have other reasons that you need to keep it. How valuable it is, and you need to, define the value some way, but then how much of it do you need to? So maybe, if it's something that you might not ever need, but it's important that if you don't have it, when you do need it, you might keep one of it, not 20 of it, right? And then, then where does it go? And there should be a place for it, and that'll be important in the next S's. One thing we did at Rexroth is because sometimes we would throw something away and someone would say, hey, wait a minute, I needed that, or I use that. Or someone else might say is, well, I could use that over here. I don't know, you don't need it there, but we could use it over here. So we created a simple process where we'd put a yellow tag on something we we're going to get rid of. And we had an area that we would put these things in. And then for a week, everybody was open to come and take it. So if it had a yellow tag on it, you could, put your name on it. Sometimes we had more than one person wanting something. So then there would have to be some horse trading normally, maybe, to go on to say who gets it. But then if at the end of the week, if nobody said they wanted it, and then it went out. Okay. And even we would donate stuff in the end too. Like we would, I'm sure there's probably some stuff we donated to QCRA. I know the different high schools, if it had some value, it still worked good, we would then also donate it rather than throw it out. But this was the means in how we used to do that. So I don't know if that's really so much necessary, that we need to create a system like that, but it's just an FYI on how we did it. In a smaller organization, it's just easy enough where you can all look at it together and say, anybody want that? Nope. Okay, take it out. Or, yep, I'll take it. I can use it for this or that. Okay. Yeah, so that's a little bit more about the first S, sort. And then for straighten, so this is then making sure then you clearly know what it is you have. And we really like to label everything in this phase. Some things are very obvious, so obviously you don't need to label everything. It's obvious what it is, but most importantly is to label where it goes. Okay. And even creating like shadow boards and poke yokes, so it only can go in one place, and then if it's not there, it's easily noticeable it's not there. And then of course everybody can then help try and find it. But here's just where you just want to make sure that it's clearly identify what it is, who owns it, where does it go. And then even you can do stuff like does it require certain maintenance? Do I need to, if it's a gauge, for example, do I need to have it then calibrated at certain intervals or things like that? So you can definitely expand it. And that usually comes also in with developing a standard. Okay. You know, then other things too, like security. Sometimes things have different, you know, like a fire extinguisher is probably a good example here, where for sure you know what a fire extinguisher is. They need to be in certain places. You need to know they're there. You need to know that then they're in good working condition too. Okay. So that's the straighten. And then for shining, a lot of times, again, this is just more with the cleaning, but also you need to make sure with this you also have a method to it. Okay, and usually there's like we like to do is create a cleaning schedule that says we need to do this on this day or this interval of time or this frequency, and we even define it on how long it should take and what cleaning or maintenance or whatever tools or things are needed to do it. And then clearly a place then for someone to initial and sign that they did it. Okay, so this goes a long ways in a bigger organization, where you know you can easily put out a cleaning schedule, but if nobody's assigned to do it, it's not gonna get done. And then if you do assign it, then especially like for us, we have 3 shifts of operation in a day. Then who's doing it on each shift? Is that important or not? And then if you're doing multiple people are doing it, then are they doing it all the same way? You know, and some things it's no big deal if it's not, but some things you really want to make sure it's always been, you always do it the same way, especially when you're maintaining equipment and things like that. So here again, the biggest thing is just to create some method or of making sure it's getting done. And again, cleaning could be mopping, cleaning could be just putting away, cleaning could be maintaining, doing some maintenance on something. That all falls underneath the shine. Okay. And then for the 4S, so here's where you now want to make sure that you can do it one time, great, but can you do it over and over and over, and can you make sure you do it the same way? So here's where you know you've done the other S's, and now you just want to document it. You want to define it, okay? How you want to do it? What's the method? And you just want to document it. Again, for me, a standard could be a nice written out Word document. It could be a simple sign, could be a simple visual aid, could be a label, color coding. We like to use a lot of color codes for different things, marking the floor, where things for sure go. You know, even we mark the floor for garbage cans and chairs and everything, because those things tend to move around quite a bit. So it's fine during the working time, but at the end of the shift or end of the day, everybody knows I put this back where it goes. So now when the next people show up to use it, it's there, it's in good working condition for them to then use it. And then you repeat the process. And then again, with a good standard, then that's now your new baseline for now. If you want to improve the process, you can then work off that baseline then to make further adjustments to either improve the efficiency, the quality, the safety, etc. But without a clear baseline, then you never know where you're starting from. And then the last 5S is sustain. And now here's where you got to really make sure you keep after it, because if you don't have something in place to really watch over it and to keep a pressure, keep the discipline, then things will easily fall back to the way they were. So there's different things to do here. I mean, we have an audit that we use at our location here in Charlotte. What we do is we created zones with different owners. So there's usually a manager who's over the zone, and then if he wants to or she wants to break up the zone into subzones, that's up to them. But the important thing is then to make sure people know their responsibility, and then we ask the managers to do a routine audit of the area, and we provide a scoring then on each of the S's to say, you know, and again, it's somewhat subjective, but just for them then to say, you know, how well they feel they are executing each of the S's in their different subzones. And it's just a simple ranking of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, I think it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's just, again, a way just, and then, you know, for them to the people to know, and for them then to, you know, people know that they're going to be checked for this. And then even a little competition between the zones to see who's who's doing the best, and even to, it gets kind of elaborate at our place. We even then have different zones audit other zones. So even you take the bias out of, marking yourself so good or not. But the point here is just to have some way of checking up to making sure that things aren't falling back to where they were, and then trying to make it a little bit more fun too, with maybe creating a contest out of it or giving recognitions for jobs well done, and then always looking at how you can improve, even improve the process of sustaining is also important to find out, because this does take work. So we're always trying to say, how can we make it more efficient or easier to do? Okay, so that's basically going through it, in a high level. And I don't know if you guys have any questions or want to go back and look at anything, or want I have some additional examples here, but this is a saying that I like to use a lot in working with my teams. And in summary, I kept stressing it. The biggest thing is the sorting. So the more I can sort, then the less I have to do for shining and straightening and standardizing. So if I can, really get things where I just have what I need for sure, then it helps with those. But then whatever I do have, then the better I shine, straighten, and standardize it, then the easier it is to sustain it. Okay, so the middle ones really then are the most important thing, as far as if you do a really good job at straightening it up, making sure it's in a good way, and you have the simple standards in place, then it's for sure a lot easier to sustain it and less work involved with that. Here's some simple projects here as some examples. So probably the most popular thing is just for someone to organize a drawer. So like the before and after, so this is pretty common. You got a drawer full of all kinds of tools or who knows what, and just to go through the 5 S's on a drawer, and then you can see here where they got rid of, they sorted, right, and then they straightened. So there's some labels, but mostly everything's obvious. But then they did a job, or a shadow board, so it's obvious what goes where, because it only one thing will fit. And then not just behind, you don't see it here, but then there's maybe a checklist on how often someone needs to even clean this out, because tools will get dirty, and then the dirty tools will get the drawer dirty. So maybe there's a cleaning schedule behind us. It's every month we're going to wipe everything off and clean it out and put it all back in.